So I'd like to begin by welcoming our listeners to this Aitken podcast about building a business case for your legal directory submissions. I am Kate Ledigo, a managing associate at Aitken, and I'm very pleased to have with me here Brittany Lewis, who is marketing manager at Bell Nunnally. She is a dynamic legal marketing professional with many years experience in business development, marketing, comms, events in the legal sector. She's also a member of the Legal Marketing Association, having held a myriad of positions within the organisation since first joining 6 years ago. Is that right? Yeah, 6 years ago. You are currently past chair and member at large of the Dallas Local Steering Committee. So it is fair to say you know a thing or two about legal marketing, Brittany.
Yes, thank you, Kate, for that introduction and the invitation to discuss the value of marketing in the legal industry and how businesses can expand their marketing strategies through legal directory rankings. It's often a frustrating and time-consuming process, but there are so many benefits from both the process and the end results that make it worthwhile.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's the right answer.
A+ for me so far.
Yes, good. So Brittany, can you tell us a bit more about Bell Nunnally's legal directory journey so far?
Yeah, sure. So I joined the firm in June of 2018, and at that point, the firm was not ranked in Chambers. Previously, one individual had been ranked, but she had left the firm. So at that time, the current managing partner, Chris Trowbridge, was the chair of the marketing committee, and he highly valued Chambers rankings, and he believed that the firm deserved to be recognized. And I agreed, of course, and I told him about my experience working with directory consultants at my previous firm. And so I advocated for pulling in outside resources to help on this initiative, and Chris was on board. So the two of us worked together to obtain approval from management for a consultant. And then that year we submitted for 2 practice areas, litigation and corporate M&A. Since then, Chris is the managing partner, as I mentioned, and now Heath Cheek is the chair of the marketing committee. And we have expanded and built on those initial goals. So this year, we are submitting for 6 practice areas.
Fantastic. And what was your initial logic for bringing in external consultants? You mentioned you'd worked with them before. Was it a sort of resource issue, or was it the expertise? You felt that maybe there was more buy-in needed from other partners across the firm? The main motivator.
Yes. I did feel like it was a resources issue as well as the expertise that consultants bring. Thankfully, as far as the buy-in was concerned, it wasn't too difficult for me to gain that at this firm, just because I'm fortunate to work for a firm that really values marketing and recognizes the importance of rankings as it pertains to the overall brand and reputation of the firm. So when I just discussed with Chris how it would be a lot easier if we brought in a consultant, he was, fairly quick to agree. And then we discussed with the management committee to get the budget approval.
Okay. And so were they submitting? You mentioned that there was one person ranked who then left. Was the firm submitting prior to your arrival and not really seeing the results that they were hoping for?
Yes, they were submitting in a number of areas prior to my arrival, but they weren't maximizing, like the references weren't submitting the maximum amount, and they weren't submitting necessarily the maximum number of matters. So we were submitting, but I don't think that we were doing them as well as we could. So with the help of a consultant, that really brought our submissions to the next level.
I know when I was in-house many moons ago now, I definitely had no idea about the importance of references. it just wasn't something on our radar at all. And even now, when I speak to partners, often they're really surprised to hear how heavily weighted Chambers ranking decisions are towards reference response. And it's really interesting that you can just fail to follow up with referees and write a really good submission, but it doesn't quite land, and you then don't see the rankings. So that definitely sounds familiar. And was that buy-in across the firm? Sorry, go for it.
Oh, sorry. Just to your point about the references. I think one of the things that feedback-wise from the consultants that was really helpful was the follow-up with the references, which, the firm, we definitely weren't doing prior. And I think that helps. And also staying in touch with the researcher to see, hey, has anybody responded yet? And how many people have responded? We weren't taking it to that next level.
Yeah. Was it one of your partners who said they were going to send cookies to their references?
Yes, and we did send some treats Fantastic. In the mail to our references. Just because, our references are busy people, as we all are, and I know it's just one more thing that we're asking them to do. So we really wanted to show our appreciation for them.
A lovely thing to do. I'm sure more people would say yes to being referees if they knew they were going to get a goodie box through the post. How fantastic. Yes. And you mentioned that Chris, your managing partner, was already sort of bought into the idea of directory submissions. Was that mirrored throughout the firm, or do you think there's still, there's some partners who aren't really engaged with it, or who weren't, but you've managed to change their mind or turn them around?
That's a good question. I would say, there are some partners who have bought in, and then there are some that haven't. I think now that we've seen the success that we have, especially with the most recent rankings, we have 3 practice areas and 3 individuals now ranked, going from, the firm not being ranked at all. I think a lot more people are on board now, because I think one of the previous issues was partners putting in all this work and not seeing anything come of it. So obviously that's frustrating for them and for me and for everyone. So now that we've seen such great results, I think everybody is more engaged, or most people are more engaged.
Yeah. And were the Chambers and other legal directory submissions centralized prior to bringing us in as consultants? Were they centralized, or were they sort of outsourced by practice area? Did each partner or practice group have to run its own submission, or you were supporting on those, running them? I say supporting, running them.
Yes, I've always been the main contact, so it's centralized with the marketing department. When I first started in 2018, I kind of hit the ground running, talking with Chris about how we could get ranked and bring a consultant on board. So ever since I've been at this firm, we have had a consultant. We have done a couple of submissions in-house where we didn't use the help of y'all, and those have been with the marketing team. So Riley, who is my colleague, and I have worked on them.
Fantastic. Okay. And it's interesting what you say about people beginning to see colleagues getting ranked and then sort of thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I see the benefit in this. I can see, that it might be good for me to try and get involved with the directory submissions.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And what, aside from increased buy-in, what other effects have you seen of your legal directory rankings, both expected and any unexpected side effects?
I think it just enhances, it enhances our reputation in the market, not only with potential clients, but also with potential employees. So from a talent attraction standpoint, which is so important right now, because, everyone is kind of seeking great talent at the same time. So I think there's a benefit from on a marketing level, but also on the recruiting side.
So have people mentioned your rankings, either sort of new clients or I suppose existing clients bringing new work or new recruitment? Has that ever been raised, or do you think it's just raised the firm's profile as a whole?
Yeah, not that I know of. Nobody's brought that to my attention. I would like to hope that they do, but I think as a whole, it's raised the firm's profile, especially, we're Dallas based and we have about 60 attorneys. So we're not a global firm, although we do have global capabilities. So I think for a firm of our size, it's quite impressive to have the number of practice areas and individuals ranked that we do have.
Definitely. Yes, I did hear it. I probably shouldn't talk about any of the negative impact of positive ranking decisions. I have heard from a partner previously when I asked whether they wanted to list an associate, to pitch them for an up and coming or an associate to watch ranking. And they said, no, because the minute Chambers recognizes them, they'll be poached by another firm.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I thought, I'm sure you don't want the associate to know that you're sort of sitting on them to make sure that nobody else knows how great they are. Yeah, I thought that was a slightly unexpected answer that I got from them. And have you, this is just out of my own interest, knowing how difficult it can be sometimes to get out of lawyers exactly what they're working on. Have you noticed any difference in terms of record keeping, and the lawyers more open with you throughout the year about what they're working on to try and sort of feed into a directories process? Has that managed to be streamlined at all? Are they more keen to share what they're working on?
I would say that ever since I joined the firm and we've been doing more marketing and business development wise, I feel like over the past 4 years, I've definitely, I don't know if it's a direct result of Chambers, but I've definitely seen the firm and the attorneys share more, come to us more, not only with their matters, but also with, say, article ideas, presentations, that sort of thing. We do a quarterly internal newsletter where we just kind of discuss recent accomplishments, whether it be client wins or attorney being published in this publication or speaking at this organization or for this organization. So I think Chambers definitely is a piece of that, that encourages them to keep letting marketing know kind of what they're up to throughout the year, which has a lot of benefits for us as the marketing team.
Yes. We have a lot of people say every year, next year, I'm going to make sure that I give all my deals to the deals database so the Chambers process is much easier. And then 12 months rolls around and they say exactly the same thing. So it's good to hear that they're feeding things through to you. That's obviously a very positive outcome. And what has been, you mentioned that you've got 3 practice areas and 3 individuals ranked. What has been your proudest result so far? Has there been an individual or a practice group that you really felt deserved? I suppose you can't have favourites, but do you have a proudest achievement from the directories?
I can't put my favorites on the recording.
No, exactly. Not until the cookies come through the post.
Right. I would just say the proudest moment was actually when the rankings were released this year, because we had one practice area ranked, we had corporate ranked, and this year we added 2 more. So we added labor and employment and commercial litigation. And then, we had the 3 partners also recognized, 1 in labor and employment, 1 in corporate M&A, but also 1 in commercial finance, which is one of the areas we are trying to get ranked in the years to come. So it was nice to have an individual ranked in that area as well. So just this year, I would say, was just our proudest moment as a firm and a marketing team when we saw those results.
Brilliant. And congratulations. I'm not sure how much I'm meant to talk about having been involved directly with you and with your partners, but you definitely feel a sense of a team or of individuals deserving to be ranked. And it's always really nice when that comes to fruition and when they, you see the brilliant work highlights actually be recognized and the hard work of the partners and of the marketing department not going to waste. So congratulations, richly deserved, I would say, and I'm glad that it's a positive result for you too. So the initial goal of embarking on your legal directories journey was presumably to gain rankings and to raise the firm's profile, or that formed part of your broader remit, I suppose.
Yes, that was the initial goal, and I would say that we have reached it, but now we're aiming even higher. And as I mentioned previously, we this year are planning to submit in 6 practice areas. So we hope to have 3 more practice areas ranked in the years to come, and then we can just keep building from there.
You say that, but that means more and more submissions.
Oh gosh, I know. But we have your help, and we could not do it without your help, seriously.
And how have you managed? I suppose you and Riley have sort of just absorbed it, but how have you managed the additional resourcing challenges that can be associated with chamber submissions?
Well, like I said, I mean, we couldn't do it without y'all's help, so that has been invaluable. And otherwise, yeah, the 2 of us just divide and conquer our piece of it to keep the process moving along.
Fantastic. Yes, there's a real benefit. I think sometimes you can only do so much over the phone or by email. Sometimes you've got to get your foot in somebody's door physically and say, I'm not leaving your office until you give me a name.
Yes, exactly. We're the boots on the ground. So we do the chasing or the herding of the cats to get the information. And then, y'all writing up the great submission obviously has been so helpful. And then the second piece of it with the references and the follow-up that Kid Aitken helps with too is great. I mean, because like I said, we weren't taking it to that next level before.
Mm-hmm. So there's real value in that post-submission, post-referee outreach bit that goes at the end with the sort of contact with the researcher and the reminder to partners to contact their references, to look in their spam folders and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yes, exactly. And the direct contact with the researcher so they can tell us, this is your response rate so far, just so we know where we're at that point. It's very helpful.
And do you think there is any benefit to that coming from an external agency or somebody separate from the firm contacting them and saying you need to reach out to your references now versus that happening in-house? Do you think there's any difference in partner buy-in on that? I'm trying to step very carefully, thinking of my previous role, and sometimes somebody else saying what you feel you have been saying for a while can be very helpful.
Yes, I actually have always said that as a legal marketer, that being in-house, we can advise on certain things and be saying one thing for however long, and then we bring in someone outside to help, and for whatever reason, sometimes they're able to get the point across much more effectively than we are.
Yes, they come in and they say exactly the same thing and somehow it lands differently.
Yes, exactly. And I think it might be just because with everything that we have going on all the time, sometimes Riley and I are always sending emails about different things. So at some point it gets lost in kind of a sea.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure nobody's filtering your emails, Brittany.
No.
But yeah, they just get that fatigue of seeing the same name.
Yes. Like, oh, sure, this is not important.
Yeah. Understood. Okay.
Yes.
And so you did mention the sort of post submission and the referee follow-up piece. Is there anything else that you think has been particularly valuable about having an external consultant support you through the legal directories journey? Has it, for example, you mentioned that you're submitting for more and more practice areas. Do you think it's given you as a marketing team more insight into the importance of various stages of the process, or, for example, the spelling out of the complexity and significance of the work highlights?
Yes, definitely. Y'all have brought just a lot of knowledge and information to the process that I didn't know before. For example, we submitted in a new area this year, and I asked you guys multiple questions about what was considered, what kind of matters would be considered for that area, and if we had a chance, how many matters we needed to submit to have a good solid submission and chance for ranking. So I would say just the insight that you bring to the table has been another piece of the puzzle that has been just invaluable.
Fantastic. I have to say, having not come from a sort of internal directories background myself, I find it so useful to be able to ask the people who were editors and researchers. I can kind of send them questions and say, is this how this happens, or is that how it works? I need to pass on the information to a client. So there's that credibility that comes with their background that you miss out on if you don't have that insight.
Yes, it's almost as if y'all like peel back the curtains on the behind the scenes, because sometimes the chambers process can be difficult to navigate, and you're not always sure exactly if what you're doing is what you should be doing. So
and do you think that helps as well with buy-in from attorneys, being able to speak with very clear guidance and knowledge, both as a consultant and as an in-house marketer, to be able to answer those questions in a very straightforward way, and to give an answer if they feel frustrated about not seeing rankings, for example, to know why those things might be happening. I think that increases confidence in the process and in the directories journey.
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I feel sometimes as though attorneys that I speak to like to try and catch me out with questions that I won't know the answer to, or they want to really get to the bottom of why something very specific has happened, or give feedback on their previous experience. Sometimes just let off steam.
I think it's in their training, they're very analytical.
Exactly. Yes, very much so.
And sometimes I do not know the answer, and I will say, I will figure it out for you.
I think there is often real credibility in saying, I don't know, but I'll find out for you, rather than trying to fudge through it and everyone seeing straight through you.
Yes, and when I say that, that's typically where you guys come in. I usually go to y'all for answers when it's anything chambers related.
Good, and I'm glad that we can hopefully help answer them.
Yes.
I'm just running through my questions, thinking if there's anything else that we would like to cover. I don't know if there's anything else that you feel we've not covered, anything else that you wanted to raise about the directories process, or importance from a business perspective. Do you think that Chris, managing partner, and Heath Cheek on the marketing committee, do you think they feel that it's a good investment, that they're seeing a good return on investment for the directories process?
Yes, definitely. Both of them. Heath is a lot like Chris in that he recognizes the importance of the rankings, and so both of them see value in it, and we're very excited with our most recent rankings.
Fantastic. I suppose as well, when it's coming from the top, when people at the top are excited as well, and you're not, you as, you know, as marketing are not feeling like you're endlessly having to push something. If there is real buy-in, and excitement that builds around positive rankings and seeing results, then that makes your life easier, I imagine, when it comes around to pulling together work highlights and things at that time of year.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, I will say, I know that in some firms, it's not always easy, and not all legal marketers are in the position that I'm in, where their firm, you know, really places an importance on legal directories. So in that case, you know, if a person in-house is having trouble kind of getting that buy-in, I would say, I think one of the important pieces of Chambers is the client feedback part of it, and they rank the feedback so heavily. So I think that lends credibility to the rankings themselves. And so I would say, if there's someone that's struggling with that buy-in piece, to maybe focus on that with their management committee, marketing committee, whoever is in charge.
Interesting. Thank you. Do you have any other top tips for anyone struggling with partner buy-in?
I'd say that that's an important part, because there are other obviously awards in the industry that don't have that client or referral source, referee feedback piece. And so I just think that it, like I said, makes Chambers and others that use the feedback a little more credible. And then also, you know, you're able to use that feedback in collateral materials. You know, if you,
that's true.
Yeah, if you know, have the profile with Chambers and you have access to the feedback, you're able to use those quotes in your materials, which is helpful. Obviously, it's not attributed to one person, it's confidential, but it's still very helpful.
Like we were talking about earlier, having the evidence to say, you know, it's one thing writing some beautiful copy that says that the lawyers are brilliant, but it's something else entirely to have somebody else say, I've worked with them and they are brilliant. Or, you know, in comparison with other firms that I've worked with, their client service is miles ahead, or whatever that feedback might be. That makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Thank you. I think that probably covers everything that I wanted to ask you about the legal directory journey and building a business case for legal directory submissions. So thank you very much for your time and for sharing your experience. And I wish you future continued success with the rankings, both practice and individuals. And I'm sure you've got some key targets. I hope you meet them and continue, and don't find all of the additional submissions too painful to get done. If anyone would like to find out more about legal directory submissions and building a business case, or writing a best practice submission, they can find that at www.kidaitken.com/resources. And you can learn more about the world of legal directory rankings. We work with clients at every stage of their legal directory submissions process, supporting on strategy, outsourcing the process entirely, as Brittany and I have been discussing, and then this vital post-submission client feedback process, and referee contact and researcher outreach. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you again to Brittany for your time and for sharing your experience. Very much appreciated, and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Yes, thank you, Kate, and thank you to all of you at Kid Aitken that we've worked with that have helped us achieve our goals and aim for new ones.
Fantastic. Thank you.